Alrighty, so today I'm going to do something that I've did before, but I didn't think I was going to do it for this season, and that of course is do a mega review, looking at all the games that happen in a match week, and instead of me doing a two-part review looking at the 6 games in each part, I thought I might as well just do a mega review looking at these 12 games that happen in the middle of the week. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn because this is going to be a long review, probably close to the hour-and-a-half mark, especially with the way that if you like goals, this midweek was definitely for you. I mean, this feels like the second time this midweek where, goals was just a galore in terms of this week. And I wonder if Don Gabbard did that on purpose just so that they want the fans to realize that, yeah, midweek action is also awesome in MLS and you should attend these midweek games too because these midweek games have some of the craziest thing we have seen this season in MLS. And the first game pretty much sums up that too because in this game between Atlanta versus New England, yeah, I mean, this was kind of nuts. Though I will say this, Atlanta should have won this one. I mean, Atlanta should have won this game, and they feel like they should have won this game too because, yes, they were down 2-0 in this game, partly because it was a self-inflicted mistake, but they came back and were able to lead 3-2 in the game. And I also would like to say that this game is kind of similar to the Celtics versus Heat Eastern Conference Final in the NBA. Yeah, an NBA reference. You never thought I would make that in a review, but you know how in that game where the Heat went up 3-0 and then they choke a 3-0 lead only for them to win it in game 7 and the Celtics basically fall flat on their face. Well, that kind of is this game with the way that Atlanta found themselves 2-0 down, came back and made an incredible comeback to lead 3-2 in the dying minutes of this game, only to basically fell flat in stoppage time and decided to do what they did a couple years ago, which is giving up late goals when their fans weren't expecting that of course is the case. Though early on, and as I mentioned, in terms of this goal fest, it all started just 1 minute in. In fact, 22 seconds into this game, which surprisingly, this actually isn't the fastest goal that was scored from this match week. Carlos Hill gets on the score sheet, but it was just an absolute gift from Brad Guzan. I mean, this was a nightmare game for Brad Guzan, and it kind of started here where he just basically gave it straight to Hill. And Hill basically said, "Thank you very much. I'm just going to tap it into the empty net." And just like that, New England were up 1-0. Araujo did try to respond, but he hits one right to Petrovich before Buck had a free header that missed wide there. Araujo then blasts one into the stands. I thought it was a great start to this game with some good chances for both of these teams. Amada, which struck the post on the free kick, because we know Amada is the best free kick taker in this league, and that, yeah, I mean, he almost got another one there if it wasn't for the post. No doubt Atlanta was pressing for the equalizer. Yakimakis tried to chip Petrovic, but Petrovic was not having it. Well, actually, it went over the bar, that is. There was a shout for a penalty not given to Atlanta, and I just thought the final ball has been lacking for Atlanta. And despite the fact that they have creating some chances, there were times where, the final ball was kind of a lot to be desired. Though Petrovic did deny Araujo on the near post before Amada would hit the side netting, and I thought the refs got to watch the turnover because that chances for Atlanta all came because of a turnover from the refs. Amada then puts it high from close range, and then just completely out of nowhere, Bobby Wood would score from Boateng and Jones to make it 2-0 in favor of the Revs, and it was completely against the run plays. I mean, I've also would like to say that in the words of Taylor Twellman too, because he basically said that with authority, and it was. I mean, that really kind of came out of nowhere. Atlanta looked like they were most likely going to get the equalizer with them knocking on the door, but now all of a sudden they found themselves 2-0. Now, to give Atlanta credit, they didn't give up. Araujo would hit one right to Petrovic. Araujo had a lot of chances in this one. Didn't get on the score sheet though, and if you wonder, with a guy that he's counting his day down in Atlanta, maybe he won't be motivated to really give something to this team. That doesn't seem like was the case in this game. I mean, Araujo definitely were very motivated in this one. Amada would then puts it wide in the 41st minute, and I just wanted this is one of those nights for Atlanta where no matter how it's going to be, the finishing is not going to be there. And I feel like it was kind of almost a reminiscent of the first game of the season when they play against the Quakes. They had a lot of chances, and they found themselves 1-0 down very, very quickly in this game, and they just could not able to find this equalizer. Etienne Jr. then missed a sitter, which kind of sums up Atlanta night up to that point before Yakimakis would hit it wide from long range. The shot were 12-4 at that point. I mean, it was that's a lot of shots in the first half. But again, the story is the shots on goal is only two apiece. So again, they really haven't tested Petrovic too much. Atlanta with some of the chances that they had, and we had to halftime somehow with the refs leading 2-0 against Atlanta. Now in the second half, there was not much chances, which that kind of favored the refs because you know that deep in Bruce Arena mind, he probably is not happy about that first half, even with his team leading 2-0 with the amount of chances that they gave to Atlanta. But in the 56th minute, finally Atlanta got the equalizer, or well, not got the equalizer, but got a goal on the board. And when all things are in doubt, why not ask Yakimakis, the one that to score the goal, because he's been that Joseph Martinez replacement that they've been looking for this season. And I know it's still early in the season. Well, I wouldn't say early, but maybe about halfway in the season. But Yakimakis has definitely been a great replacement for Joseph Martinez, and he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Rams. He looked to tie it just a couple of minutes later, but he hits it right to Petrovic, and then Petrovic absolutely robbed Yakimakis from close range, and the momentum was with Atlanta. I mean, they were pressing for the equalizer. The Revs were just on the ropes. Like, they were scrambling. They were trying to hold on to this 2-1 lead, and they don't, because in the 73rd minute, Thiago Almada would score from Rosetto and Lennon to make it 2-2 in this one. It came off of a deflection, but, Atlanta wouldn't care because, they've been chasing for those goals for a very long time. It's kind of about time for them to get some luck in this one. And then 14 minutes later, Atlanta takes the lead. It's Miguel Berry. He might have scored or the goal of the week, because knowing Atlanta, whenever they score an amazing goal, it's probably going to be the goal of the week. And that this also is his first goal in almost a year and a half, as he just absolutely rifles this one from long range. And yeah, Atlanta made it 3-2. Game over, right? No, because in the bare minute of stoppage time, Carlos Hill would have the last laugh in this one, as he scored here to tie the game up at 3 apiece. So Carlos Hill scoring the first goal just 20 seconds in. It would be only fitting that he would score the last goal of this game in the third minute of stoppage time. And I also wrote Guzan was completely flat-footed in this one, and he shouldn't be flat-footed this one, because the shot that Carlos Hill shot, it was a powerful shot, but you kind of had a sense that if Guzan wasn't flat-footed there, he probably would have parried that one away. But that ties the game up at 3 apiece. Mercedes-Benz Stadium was absolutely stunned. I'm pretty sure anyone watching this was absolutely stunned. Like, this was some MLS After Dark peak kind of material that we seen, and this is just the first game of this match week. But yeah, in the end, it ends in a free draw, and the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to just 5 that New England had. 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Revs had. 9 shots off target compared to 1 that the Revs had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Revs had. And possession-wise, 72% possession compared to 28% possession that the Revs has in this game. And like I said, for Atlanta, this absolutely feels like a loss, and probably a loss and a half, with the amount of chances that they had. And just as they thought that they got the winning goal, then they got an absolute gut punch in the third minute of stoppage time. But for the Revs, they would feel like they stole this one. I mean, I know Bruce Arena will not be happy that they blew a 2-0 lead, but consider the circumstances in this game. I think they'll be happy they able to got a point out of this. And keep in mind, teams that were the better their team in this match week, another big storyline coming out of this midweek week, is that those teams that were the better team don't necessarily means that they get the win, because as I will talk about in some of these games, we had teams that were the better side, but they came out on the losing end, or in this case for Atlanta, on the end where they drop points in a game that they had that incredible comeback, but unfortunately they fell short because they had to give up a goal late against the run of plays once again. But moving on, in terms of the next one, is Columbus versus Colorado. So, I know this is another goal fest, but really, Columbus kind of was in control in this one, and Colorado did get one back late to kind of make this score respectable. But what's kind of interesting about this game is the fact that, Columbus, they kind of had to face a bit of an adversity in this one too, because after Yoboa would puts it high from close range in the third minute, and as I thought that Columbus were on the front foot and was pressing for the opener, they found themselves 1-0 down in the ninth minute, as Sam Nicholson would score here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Rapids. Always love to see Sam Nicholson score a goal. So definitely forever Loons player there. And that was also the Rapids' first shot, and really the first attack that the Colorado Rapids has had up to that point. So that's got to be frustrating if you're a Wilfried Nancy team where you had all those good chances and looked promising in the early bit, and just one attack that you give to your opposition, and it ends up in the back of the net. But in the 13th minute, Morris did hits one right to Illich before I wrote the possession was 75-25 in favor of the Crew, and it was kind of pretty obvious that the Rapids were trying to park the bus. Like I mean, Columbus was having all the possession. They were sending pretty much almost everybody back and sitting in a very deep low block. Though I will say that that kind of wasn't the case as the game goes on. They were also looking on those transitional play. In fact, they thought that they went up 2-0 in the 20th minute when Lewis puts it into the back of the net, but the offside flag didn't agree on that. So yeah, that goal of course was disallowed, but really that came off of a transitional play, and I immediately wrote the Crew has to watch those transitional attack. This has been a problem that the Columbus Crew has been having this season. They've been having problems in terms of putting too many men forward and get caught on the transition, and that's something that I think Wilfried Nancy's got to figure out. Because well, yes, it's one thing to be fun going forward on the attack and trying to score those goals. You don't want to put too many men forward and get caught out on the transitional play, especially they don't have the defensive structure to able to put out those transitional fire. And I think that's kind of also something that every team is going to do when they face the Crew. They know that the Crew is going to put man forward. They know that there's going to be gaps when they go quickly on the transition. And again, the Crew's got to figure it out, because there's been times that of course has happened. And in fact, the first goal that was scored was really came from a transitional play from the Colorado Rapids. So yeah, in the 26th minute, Zarian would pulls it just wide from long range before Illich with denying Cucho from close range. Marco Illich getting the start in this one. I thought he had a good game in this one, and again, kind of got hung out to dry by the Rapids defense that was not so good in this one. But he would then deny Cucho again not long after. It was all Columbus, but can they solve Illich and crack this Rapids defense that was clearly in the park the bus mode? Nagby, I thought he should have scored as he missed a free header from close range, but then in the 37th minute, Columbus finally got their deserved equalizer. It's Zarian scoring from Yeboah and Amundsen to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But then Bombito almost retake the lead for the Rapids, but he missed high there in the 39th minute. And again, that play came from a transitional play. And once again, I had to wrote Columbus got to watch those Rapids transition, because that's what the Rapids are going to do. They're going to look for those opportunity on the transitional play. And then they almost didn't get the memo again in the 45th minute, because Nicholson was through on goal. He was looking for his second goal, but missed wide there. And despite the fact that Columbus, they were kind of the better team in terms of the stats, the game was tied up at 1 apiece, and you could have said that the Rapids could have retook the lead if they were a little bit more clinical in terms of finishing those transitional play. In the second half, there was a huge shout for a handball for the Crew that was not given in the 46th minute before Amundsen would blast one into Cleveland. The post would then deny Cucho in the 53rd minute, and once again, the Crew, they were pounding on the door. It was wave after wave pressure that they would put on the Rapids, and it's only fitting that eventually that pressure did pay off in the 62nd minute as the Crew would take the lead. It's the Watsky. He scored from Zarian to make it 2-1 in favor of the Crew. It came off of a set piece, which is something that I definitely didn't think that was going to be a way that the Crew was going to get the lead. But just 8 minutes later, they made it a 2-goal game as Cucho Hernandez would score from Zarian to make it 3-1 in favor of Columbus. So there you go. There's that dynamic duo again, Cucho and Zarian. I feel like this season we haven't seen as much of that as we've seen in the past, but alas, they did get on the score sheet here. And then Remy Cabral would puts it high from long range. I didn't know Kevin brother Remy Cabral actually follow him with the Rapids, because I know when Kevin Cabral was with the Galaxy, his brother Remy was playing for Los Dos, but I didn't think that he was going to follow him to the Rapids too. But he of course got some minutes in this game too. But in the third minute of stoppage time, Cole Bassett, he would score here to give a consolation for the Rapids. I mean, it was pretty much too late for the Rapids to come back into the one, but still, it was a great goal there from Calvin Harris. And again, not the DJ, it's the soccer player But yeah, it was a great goal for Cole Bassett. And again, if it wasn't for a great goal that was scored by Miguel Berry, I would say that this could be in contention for goal of the week. But like I said, the goal of the week vote, it's probably going to be Atlanta fans stuffing that and saying that Miguel Berry won it. But nevertheless, again, that's just a consolation and just a slight dent in terms of the crew goal difference. As in the end, they win 3-2 in this one. Definitely a win that they needed because things have not gone well for Wilfred Nancy's side. Really for the past month or two now. 17 shots committed, 9 that the Rapids had, 3 shots on goal committed, 6 that Columbus had, 5 shots off target committed, 6 that Columbus had, 1 shot that was blocked committed, 5 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Colorado Rapids has in this game. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is NYCFC versus FC Cincinnati. So it's safe to say that FC Cincinnati is definitely the favorites now of winning the Supporter Shield. I mean, there's been that question of, well, yes, Cincinnati has been able to get a lot of wins at home, but can they do the same thing on the road? And the answer is yes. And I don't think it's a surprise because, last season, Pat Nolan's team were very good on the road, and they're once again showing it that in this season. And this is actually a really impressive win because not a lot of people was able to walk into Yankee Stadium and walk out with 3 points, but that's exactly what Cincinnati did to NYCFC. Though early on, there was not much that was happening in the first 15 minutes. The first shot of the game saw Saratano denying Sands from the corner. By the way, after the game, James Sands kind of got the LA Galaxy and the supporter group treatment, as he kind of had some choice words between the supporter group. Well, actually, I would say the supporter group had some choice words towards Sands. Sands were trying to escalate like the situation to not get very ugly. And again, it feels weird the fact that this season we're started seeing something similar to this kind of all started with AC Milan a couple of months ago where the ultras kind of went on the players, and now we're starting to see with a couple of teams doing that too. And I mean, if you're is that actually beneficial? You tell. I mean, I know that fans are upset on the players and stuff like that, but I don't know if just saying it in person to let the players know will really get the memo or so forth. But anyway, in the 22nd minute, the first shot did came from Cincy as Barraza would deny Arias, but Ariel actually got the rebound on this, but his shot was deflected and it goes wide. Vasquez then puts it high from close range before Acosta had a shot that took a deflection too, but he hits it right, or it hit it right to Barraza. Kubo then missed wide from long range. I thought Cincinnati was started to get some good looks, and I also thought that it was mostly because of a bad giveaway from NYCFC. Like there was a lot of bad turnover from NYCFC early in this one. In the 30th minute though, NYCFC thought that they got the opening lead as Pereira puts it into the back of the net, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed because there was a foul in the box there, and that would be a killer goal to be disallowed because just 1 minute later, they would concede on the other end. NYCFC as Cincinnati gets the lead here. It's Lucho Acosta scoring from Baji and Barrial to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Great goal there from Acosta, top in there on the right side. We then get some coming together in the 40th minute. There was definitely some feistiness in this game too. And yeah, Mosquera, he basically did a Neymar and Suarez impression. He was kind of rolling on the ground, holding his face when it was pretty obvious that he was trying to do that so he can maybe get one of the NYCFC players sent off. That of course didn't happen, and I have a feeling Mosquera is going to get maybe a fine from Disco for embellishment on the weekends here. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Kerfoot would had a cross shot that actually struck the post. Oh, I forgot to mention that Acosta also pulls it wide as Cincinnati was looking for the second goal, but again, Kerfoot almost tied it for NYCFC with a little cross shot there that struck the post, but we do head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 1-0. Now in the second half, again, a lot of possession for NYCFC, but not much creativity going forward, which a lot of that has to do with the fact that Cincinnati was very organized in the defensive shape. Though they did had to deny, or Saratano did had to deny Rodriguez on the free kick, but he did give up a rebound, and it fall right to Pereira, who trying to slot it back in, but fortunately, he was also denied by Saratano. I mean, Saratano came up with a couple of big saves in this one, and it's key because just a couple of minutes later, Cincinnati doubled their lead. It's Barria. It's him him now that is the one that scored a great free kick. We saw a couple of free kick goals in this match. We got some lovely, great free kick goals. And again, in terms of the goal of the week contention, I mean, there's a lot of great goal of the week contention this week, but I still think that Atlanta and Miguel Berry goal is probably going to win out because that's how it works with the goal of the week contention. And then there was a penalty that was given to Cincinnati as VAR deemed that Alfaro was brought down Mascara in the box, and then in the 70th minute, Vasquez would puts the penalty to make it 3-0. And also, I just realized that I think I forgot. Did I forget a goal from NYCFC, or did I just I put the wrong score. I think I put I forgot a goal from NYCFC in this game. Yeah, I did. In the 64th minute, Kerf didn't make it 2-1 to make it interesting in this one, but just a couple of minutes later, Cincinnati does get a penalty, and Vasquez basically restored that to a 3-1 lead. So yeah, apologies to Brian Kerfoot and NYCFC, of course, not getting it, but I didn't really take too much notes in the last 20 minutes, and you notice for these early game, I didn't really take too much notes because I was really keeping an eye on this game of how crazy this game was getting to. But in the end, Cincinnati, they were able to win 3-1 against NYCFC. Shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 11 that Cincinnati has. 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that NYCFC had. Both teams had 5 shots off target. 1 shot that was blocked for both of these teams, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to the 40% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And again, for Cincinnati, they continue that march in terms of potentially winning the Supporter Shield. They have now got, I think, 35 points in their first 15 games, which is the most that any team has got up to that point. But for NYCFC, the struggle continue. And I know no they're very happy the fact that they're back at home, but now all of a sudden they're dropping points at home. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you do face against two really good teams in the Eastern Conference, that's probably the reason. But I think that's also a big telling story that NYCFC probably is not going to be a contender in the East. They might be able to make it to the playoffs this season and just barely making it, but they're definitely not going to be a juggernaut like what we've seen in the past couple of seasons. But that being said, moving on into the next game, we got the Union versus Charlotte FC. So this wasn't the prettiest game for the Union, and you kind of had a sense that this was going to be tough because Charlotte has been playing really well lately, and they've been very defensively organized. But in the end, the Union, they were able to get the win in this one, and they almost scored a goal 32nd in, but the post denied Carranza from close range. Again, there was just so many first minute goal, and this won't be the last time I mentioned there's going to be a first minute goal in this match week. Elliott then hits it right to Kalina before Wagner would puts it wide from close. As I thought, Charlotte had a lot of the possession, but they haven't really created any decent chances. Though in the 33rd minute, Uru would puts it into the back of net, but the flag did not agree with him there as it was all offside. Vargas then had a shot that was deflected and it goes wide, and then Martinez would pulls it wide from long range as the Union was pressing late to try to get the opening goal, but we do head to halftime scoreless between the Union and Charlotte. Now in the second half, Lowe puts one over the bar from long range before Blake had to tip Vargas shot over. Glesnes then hits one right to Kalina, and once again the Union was pressing for the lead. This time they do get it in the 70th minute. It was originally credited as a Daniel Gastak goal, but they did change it to a Kalina own goal, and really this was just one of those unfortunate moments where Gastak actually struck the post there, but as it bounced off the post, it bounced off the back of the goalkeeper. We've seen it a couple of times this season, and it always sucks when that, of course, has happened, especially when you're a goalkeeper where you thought the post will save you there. And usually we talk about the post is always the friend for the goalkeeper. Not all the time. When it kind of came off the post and bounced it back toward your back, yeah, it definitely was an enemy for you, and that's kind of what happened in this one. So a little fortunate for the Union, but they wouldn't care. They were leading 1-0 in the 82nd minute. They were trying to make it 2-0, or at least Donovan was trying to make it 2-0, but he missed wide there. Wouldn't have counted either way because the flag went up. But in the 5th minute stoppage time, Gastak would put it into the back of the net. But once again, the flag did not agree with him as it was disallowed for offside. As in the end, the Union, despite they weren't able to get that killer second goal, they were still able to hold on to win 1-0 against Charlotte. And the shots in this one, 11 shots for the 5 that Charlotte has. Both team had 2 shots on goal, 1 shots off target for the 5 that the Union has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to the 4 that the Union has. And possession-wise, 46% possession compared to 54% possession that the Union has, or that Charlotte has in this game. So yeah, for Charlotte, it's a tough resort. I mean, it's always going to be tough to try to go on the road to face against a Union team that, as I mentioned, they've been red hot so far this season. I believe they're now, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're now up to third in the East. Yeah, they're up to third in the East. They're only 1 point behind Nashville for second place. So again, it seems like we're starting to see something what I thought the Eastern Conference was going to look like. It was going to be a battle between the Union and Cincinnati for that first place. And although Cincinnati is kind of starting to pull away with it, they do have like an 8 point lead over Nashville for that second place. The Union is trying to have something to say. And again, this is just a team that I feel like ever since they lost in that CCL semifinal, it was kind of in some way a blessing in disguise, where the fact that now that they really want to focus on league play and really want to left the job that was undone last season when they lost to LAFC in MLS Cup. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games as part of this mega review I do for these midweek games in match week number 16. So moving on in the next game, we got DC and Montreal, and DC will be very frustrated that they got only a point out of this one, because it looked like they were cruising to a 2-0 win, and then they kind of had a 3-minute implosion and let their former head coach Hernan Lasada get a draw out of this game for Montreal. Now early on, Camacho would hit one right to Miller before Santos would hit one right to Siwas. Santos then puts it wide from close range, but in the 37th minute, Williams would also hit it high from the corner, as I thought DC started to get started to push for the opening goal. Click would puts it high from long range, but then in the 44th minute, DC does get the opening goal. It's Donovan Pines with a rare goal here from Mateus Click to give DC a 1-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, not much really happened in the first 10 minutes. The first real action in the second half was actually a goal, and it's scored by Ted Kudibiacho here in the 58th minute from Benteke to make it 2-0 in favor of DC. Ibrahim looked for the response, but he is denied by Miller from a tight angle. I thought this was another good game for Sanusi Ibrahim, and he started to be really lively for this Montreal all side in these last 2 games. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he actually ends up on the goal scoring chart too. But before that, he would miss wide from long range in the 65th minute as Montreal was pushing back to get one back. Lassiter would then struck the post from close range in the 73rd minute, but then in the 80th minute, Montreal does get one back. It's Sanusi Ibrahim. He scored here from Lassiter and Charnier to make it 2-1 in favor of DC. And then just 2 minutes later, before you can blink an eye, Montreal got the equalizer. It's Lassiter scoring from Ibrahim and Waterman to tie the game up at 2 apiece. So the guy earlier that contributed on the assist on Ibrahim's shot, they decided to play an Uno reverse card, and that it's now Lassiter, the one that scores the goal from Ibrahim there. I know I of course don't give the secondary assist a lot to credit, but that was kind of interesting to see how both of those guys would contribute on the goals, and they do the same thing, but it's just kind of reversed just 2 minutes later. But yeah, nevertheless, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece. Audi Field was kind of in stunned silence because, yeah, I mean, they were up 2-0, and next thing you know, it's 2-2 in this one. And then Saliba looked for the lead for Montreal, but he missed high from long range. The momentum was all with Montreal up to that point. And if you're a DC, you're fearing you're going to do the same thing that New England did, which is blew a 2-0 lead to find themselves down 3-2. Though, that being said, they did have a chance to make it 3-2 as Benteke heads it wide from close range. I think this is the only time I mentioned Benteke's name in this game. He had a quiet game in this one, which if you're Montreal, that's got to be good news, because Benteke has been very good. Though again, with Benteke, and as it is the case throughout his career, he's going to have to add at least multiple chances to score a goal, and knowing that this is really one of his first chance, he's not going to put it into the back of the net. But Nevertheless, it ends in a 2-2 draw, and the shots in this one, 12 shots with 11 that Montreal has, 5 shots on goal with the 4 that DC had, 5 shots off target with the 3 that Montreal has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Montreal has in this game, and there's no doubt that Hernan Losada will be the more happier side out of this, able to get a draw against his old team on the road. But for DC, again, another missed opportunity for them to get resorted. And now lately they've started to struggle lately and started to regress a little bit after they had an incredible May and also late April too. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Toronto and Chicago. So in a midweek where there was a ton of goals that were scoring all these games, apparently both of these teams doesn't get that memo. And I will also say that this is a game where TFC should have won this one. I mean, they were the better side in this one in terms of stats. But what did I say about earlier of how just because you're the better team doesn't mean you're gonna get the resort. And more times than not, this midweek, the better team either lose or draw in their resort, and that's kind of the case with TFC in this one. In the first half, Burke with the first shot again, but he missed or header into the side netting before Insigne would throws it. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. See, this is I wrote the wrong note. I think I wrote the did I wrote the wrong notes here. I was writing this while I was watching the highlights of the Red Bulls game. Yeah, I think I might have wrote the wrong notes there. So ignore what I wrote there in terms of it. But in the 11th minute, Insigne did curls it wide after just a bad giveaway from Chicago. So that's a no for the Fire to do. But Kamara would hit it wide from close range before Brady would deny Benedeschi from close range. As I thought both team was getting some good chances and chasing for the opener. But in the 24th minute, after Brady denied Thompson there, he did spills it, and it goes right to DeAndre Kerr. Now, fortunately, he was able to deny Kerr there on the rebound, but he also took a knee to the head. And yeah, that's not a great feeling if you're a goalkeeper. In fact, Brady would be subbed off because of concussion precaution there for Spencer Richie. And little do we know that Spencer Richie would actually have had a good game in relief in this one. In the 42nd minute, Kerr would then puts it high on the doorstep of goal before Richie would deny Marcel Rutti after Richie actually got pickpocket. I don't know why I wrote Brady there. Brady wasn't in goal up to that point, but yeah, he got pickpocket there in his own half, but he did make amends for that. Well, there was no doubt that Toronto was started to get some good attacking sequence there and that or some sustained pressure up to that point, and they were trying to get the goal before halftime, but they don't, and we head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Suke would miss wide on the header before Johnson had to deny Kamara from close there. But then Richie on the other end denied Marshall Rutti from close, and once again, both of these teams were getting some good opportunity, though Benedeschi would puts it high there. I forgot to mention that Bernadeschi, of course, we're back in the starting 11, so it seems like with his disagreement between him and Bob Bradley, they might have resolved now because if Bernadeschi is back in the starting 11, I don't think it. Yeah, I think or actually, if the conflict between him and Bob Bradley wasn't resolved, I don't think Bernadeschi would be back in the starting 11. But he was back in the starting 11 in this one. Sarvinia would then hit it wide from close before Lorea would hit one right to Richie, which is kind of an awkward thing to say because Lorea's first name was Richie, even though I know it's not the same spelling. It's still kind of weird to say that. But Insigne then puts one wide from the free kick, and the Blues were raining down at BMO Field at full time because it's not because of lack of trying. I thought TFC definitely had some good opportunity, but they just kind of ran into Spencer Richie that does a good job in terms of relief. But it's just the inability to score and get 3 points, and also just the amount of turmoil that still surround this team right now. As in the end, it ends scoreless between both of these teams. Shots in this one, 19 shots committed, just 4 that Chicago has had. I don't believe Chicago got only 4 shots in this game. Like I think I've at least wrote 5 or 6 notes that Chicago had an opportunity in this one. So yeah, I find it hard to believe it. They actually only got 4 shots in this one. 7 shots on goal for the 1 that Chicago has. 3 shots that was off target for the 6 that TFC had. No shots that was blocked for the 6 that TFC had. And possession wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Toronto has in this game. And again, for Toronto, in a game where it was a winnable game, they don't get it. Fans are once again frustrated about that. And for the Fire, I mean, I guess it's a good resort. I mean, they had their opportunity to, at least in some part of this game, but overall, when you have two teams that are not having a very good season, I always say that when that happens, a draw is probably something that neither of these teams would want, especially when it's between two teams that are near the bottom part of the Eastern Conference. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next game is Inter Miami versus the New York Red Bulls. So it seems like, ironically, the Red Bulls, they were the first team to basically had their head coach being fired. Well, actually, I wouldn't say their head coach got fired. Gerhard Stuber actually decided to mutually part ways, so he decided to leave the team rather than the Red Bulls actually fired him. But it's kind of ironic the fact that in this season where the Red Bulls had their head coach leave and become the first domino to fall, that they would cause Inter Miami to also being fired their head coach after this game, as we mentioned before earlier today, that Inter Miami has officially fired Phil Neville after this result, which is the fourth straight loss that Inter Miami has suffered. But before that, we did get a lightning delay in this game because, of course, it is Miami. You know you're going to get a lightning delay at least once or twice this season. I'm kind of surprised that it has taken now until they get a lightning delay. But yeah, the kickoff was pushed back until 8:18 p.m. Luquinhas with headset wide from the corner before there was a penalty that was given to Miami as VAR deemed that Duncan pulled Stefanelli down in the box. Well, he didn't really pull him down the box, but he grabbed the jersey, and yeah, that obviously is going to be a penalty. But unfortunately, Miami couldn't capitalize because Cornell denied Campana from the spot, and it was not a great penalty from Leo Campana. I mean, he hits this one with not a lot of pace, and that Cornell gets the right way. It was relatively easy save from him. On the other end, Calendar would deny Carmona from close, and we then go through a period where there was not much that happened, not really a lot of chances that was created. Though Campana did try to make amends of his PK miss, but he missed wide from long range in the 38th minute, and then Amaya would head it right to Calendar, and then Calendar would tips one over Talking Shot. So remember how I said there wasn't a lot that has happened? Well, in the last 15 minutes, that was not the case. There was chances for both of these teams. Well, mostly on the Red Bulls part. Reyes would then heads one right to Calendar as Andres Reyes almost scored against his former team. There was a couple former Miami player with playing in for the Red Bulls in this one, including the return of Lewis Morgan. But in the 40, or actually in the second minute stoppage time. Oh, and I mentioned the Red Bulls were pushing for the opener late in the first half. Burke would then hits one right to Calendar before Calendar would deny Carmona. But he did give up a rebound, and there was Burke trying to pounce on it, but unfortunately the flag was up on him there. So even if Corey Burke puts that in, it wouldn't have counted. And despite the sustained pressure the Red Bulls had, we head to halftime, scoreless between Miami and the Red Bulls. Now in the second half, the Red Bulls eventually break through. It's Tom Barlow that scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. Originally, Lucchini has actually shook the post here, but it fall kindly right to right to Barlow there. And as much as I know Barlow has been the butts of jokes of the New York Red Bulls, he's not going to miss that one. It's going to be one of the easiest goals he'll score in his career. And yeah, that gives the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. Burke then looked for a second goal, but he missed wide there. And again, it was another strong start for the Red Bulls. They were pressing to get that second goal. Burke would hit one right to counter before Campana pulls it wide from close range. I kind of had to get a sense why Inter Miami eventually did fire Phil Neville, because this was just another flat performance against a Red Bulls team that has had problems this season in terms of scoring. And I would say that this was kind of the same case in this one, even with the Tom Barlow goal, where this game kind of had that feeling of, we've seen before where the Red Bulls have done well on the road, but they just don't have that goal score to finish up the chances that they create throughout this game. Then in the 69th minute, Burke would hit it wide in the front post before in the 81st minute. I mentioned Lewis Morgan make his return. He was trying to score against his former team, but missed wide from close. And I also wrote with the inability of getting that second comeback to haunt the Red Bulls, because despite the fact that Miami didn't have a lot of chances, you cannot just keep this one at 1-0 nothing and then create a That's So Metro moment. Though Counter did deny Barlow from close in the 3rd minute stoppage time, and then Harper was giving his marching order after he got a second yellow in the 4th minute of stoppage time. Aurora then heads it wide from the corner in the 6th minute of stoppage time, and the boo bird rained down hard in this game too. I mean, there was a lot of boos that was rained down. I even mentioned when Harvey Neville was subbed in into this game in my video earlier, talk about the firing of Phil Neville, that he would also boo. And now it's going to be interesting to see what happened to Harvey Neville. I mean, his dad just got fired, so does he stay with the team, or does he move back to England? That should be interesting to see. But nevertheless, the Red Bulls were able to win 1-0 in this one. 18 shots compared to just 6 that Miami has. 9 shots on goal compared to 1 that Miami has. Both teams had, or actually no, 4 shots off target compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had. Almost said both teams had 5 shots off target when that's not the case. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 4 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. And yeah, for the Red Bulls, good road win for them. I think they still have that issue in terms of goal scoring. But again, the good news is knowing that Lewis Morgan seems like he's back in this game. I think it won't be a matter of time before he's going to be starting once again. And they desperately miss Lewis Morgan. Like, he was really the offense for them last season, and they're hoping that's going to be the same case for this season too. But moving on into the last game on this board, and normally I say this is the last game of this review because I do an 8 game part 1 review, but today I'm doing a mega 12 game review, looking at all the game from the midweek action. Is Austin versus Minnesota, and I feel like this game is more infuriating than the draw that the Loons had against RSL, because I really think that they play even better in this one, and that this was actually a really good road game for Minnesota. The problem is that they just couldn't solve Stuver in this one, and Brad Stuver just kind of had a Manuel Neuer moment in this one, especially late in this game. And also the post, it was kind to Minnesota in the last game against RSL. It was not so kind in this one against Austin. And also, offside flag was not kind to the Loons in this one too. But early on, Dane Sinclair did deny Rain from close range before Rain would hit it wide from the corner, as I thought Austin was on the front foot, and it was a slow start for the Loons coming out of the gate. And in the 19th minute, Austin would capitalize on that fast start as John Gallagher, he scored here from Lundqvist and Cascante to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. The lead wouldn't last long though, because just 7 minutes later, Minnesota ties it up. It's Rosales scoring his first career MLS goal from Garcia and Longwane to make it get 1-1 in this one. And there was even a hint that this probably could have been offside against Garcia, because the way that I saw Minder Garcia kind of peel off the last defender, they could have easily called offside in terms of that, but they didn't. The game was tied up at 1 apiece. Longwane then missed wide from close before Fagundes would miss hide on the free kick. And then Stuver would deny Fragapani from close after just a bad giveaway from Austin, because that's kind of how this season has gone. There's been many times where Austin turned the ball over inexplicably. And then the post came to Austin rescue as it denied trap of a banger goal. Won't be the last time the post would be unkind to the Loons and denied Minnesota a banger of a goal. But there was no doubt that the Loons had the momentum. And they probably should be leading in this one if it wasn't for the post. Though Cascante trying to retake the lead for Austin, but he hits one right to Dane Sinclair, and we head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece. Now in the second half, Finley would hit one right to Dane Sinclair. If Ethan Finley scored in this one, I would have been so conflicted, because on one hand, I love Ethan Finley. He's definitely one of the more well beloved player when he was with Minnesota, and I have a feeling if Finley does score here, he wouldn't have celebrated, because deep down he still love Minnesota United. But yeah, I would have had some very conflicted feeling if he does score. Thankfully he didn't. But just a minute later, Dane Sinclair would deny Gallagher of his second goal. I thought this was probably one of the best games that Dane Sinclair has. And good on Dane Sinclair on that, because I thought the last game was a very shaky game, and it was a good bounce back for him. And really the 2 goals that he conceded, he couldn't do anything about it. But I thought once again Austin come out the second half the better side, as they were looking for the lead again. Though Stuver did deny some bin from long range before Dotson would be the latest victim of the post. And yeah, this was just a trademark Hassani Dotson kind of banger only goal, but the post decided that that was not the time to say it. And yeah, again, just very unlucky for Minnesota in this game. Rosales then missed wide from close range, and also just saying that is that I have a feeling probably Minnesota is not going to win because looking how this is and knowing some of the sports culture of Minnesota, it's probably means that the Loons are probably gonna not win this one. But I also wrote just like the first half. It looks like as the first half or as the half goes, Minnesota were putting more pressure on this Austin team, and they were looking for the lead, but it didn't happen because in the 82nd minute, Trey Yusi made his return in this one, coming off the bench as he scored here for Cascante to make it 2-1 in favor of Austin, and this came off of a throw-in. You know how much that I feel very frustrated with my team whenever they give up a goal that came in a throw-in, and this was no exception. I mean, that should not happen. Like that, you should not be conceding a goal from a throw-in, especially a throw-in that is into the box. Like the Loons, they just didn't deal with that. They just didn't clear the ball away, allow the ball to be bounced in the 18-yard box for too long. And when that happened, yeah, you're basically bound to concede, and that's exactly what happened. Then just 4 minutes later, it looked like the game was tied up again, as it looked like once again that lead was short-lived when Dotson puts it into the back of the net. Problem was, VAR disallowed that goal for offside, and I know originally some Minnesota fans were very upset about this, but I think this is actually the right call with the way that when this shot was come in, it actually bounced a couple of Austin defender, and that it kind of fall kindly to Dotson. Problem is Dotson was in an offside position when that shot was come in, and again, it doesn't matter that if the ball actually is deflect off of a couple of defender, unless if they deliberately played it, which in that case that was not deliberate. I mean it was kind of pinball off a couple of Austin defender, but unless if it's deliberate, if you basically touch the ball and you're in the offside position when that shot comes in, you're gonna be flagged for offside. So yeah, obviously that goal was rightfully chopped off. It was still 2-1 in favor of Austin, but as we head into stoppage time, this is when the Loons really push hard to get the equalizer. First, Longwane was in on goal there, but he was robbed by Stuvert, and also we'll just say that this is when it was the Brad Stuvert for a show in stoppage time. After that, he would deny Taylor from close range, and then he would deny Tapias in the front post in the 5th minute of stoppage time. And I mean, wrote Stuvert at single-handedly preserving all 3 points for Austin with his incredible heroic. And that's exactly what he did. As in the end, Austin win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 22 that Minnesota has in this game. That is by far the most shots that Minnesota has had this season. 7 shots on goal compared to 6 that Austin had. 7 shots off target compared to 4 that Austin has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 8 that Minnesota has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Minnesota has in this game. So yeah, again, very frustrating result for the Loons. I really think they could have got they deserve to get a point out of this because it was another good performance for them, but unfortunately they just didn't get any luck from the post, and also just ran into an opposition goalkeeper that decided to play at his best. But for Austin, I mean, they got the win, but again, this is probably a little fortunate, and I would say that in another game, probably they might not have got a resort in this one. I mean, overall, what I'm trying to say is that the defense obviously so he kind of got bailed out in this game because of Stuver and also of the post. And also the good news is, with Dre UC back in this team, and again, he most likely could be starting regularly for this team, and he's already scoring goals coming back from a bit of an injury. This is definitely good news for this Austin team, especially on the offensive end, which has been a bit of a problem in these last couple of games, and really for the last month or two when they are missing Dre UC going forward. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games in terms of the midweek action of match week number 16. So moving on in the next game is RSL versus the Galaxy. So similar to what I said about DC versus Montreal, for RSL it looked like things were going well with them getting the 2-1 lead, and then it wasn't. But unlike DC, in a blink of an eye, RSL, who had that 2-1 lead, it vanished and it became 3-2 in favor of the Galaxy, and that actually would be the final score of this game. Now, early on, the first shot of the game, see Puig puts it wide from close range before the first shot for RSL. See Vera puts it high from close in the 16th minute. But really, there was not much chance to speak of throughout the first 20 minutes. Bond would then deny Gomez after just a bad turnover from RSL, and then Gomez would miss wide from close range. Or actually, not a bad turnover from RSL. It actually was a bad turnover for the Galaxy. But then on the first minute of stoppage time, the Galaxy gets a penalty as VAR deemed that Krylak handball in the box, which Bergman actually was the one to step up to take this penalty. The Galaxy has had some issue in terms of who is the right player to take the penalty, so they decided to give it to Gaston Bergman, and he makes no mistake here, and he buries it to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. But it wouldn't stay 1-0 long for the Galaxy because in the 51st minute, the Mooses lose. Muswowski scored from Savarino to tie the game up at one apiece, but this was not a great moment for Jonathan Bond. And this season, Jonathan Bond has had some issues in terms of goalkeeping for this team. He has really regressed after a great first 2 year with the Galaxy, where in this moment he just missed the punch. Like when you're the goalkeeper and you come off your line, you have to get to the punch first, because if you don't get the punch in, the opposition is going to head that one in, and that's exactly what happened in this one, as that ties the game up at one apiece. Krylak tried to take the lead for RSL, but it goes straight to Bond, and then Muswowski would look for his second, but he missed one in the 56th minute. But there was no doubt the momentum was all with RSL. They were pressing hard for the lead. Bond would deny Ojeda from close range before Ojeda would put it wide from long range. But then in the 67th minute, RSL got that lead. It's Pablo Ruiz scored a great free kick here to make it 2-1 in favor of RSL. So that's one way for them to finally get the pressure payoff by scoring a wonderful free kick goal. But you kind of had a feeling that it's been coming, and that, yeah, RSL made it 2-1, and you're just thinking, well, it's a matter of time. They're gonna just cruise and maybe get a third goal to really wrap this one up, right? Well, no, because that lead would be short-lived, as 5 minutes later, Memo Rodriguez would score from Puig and Caligari to make it 2-2 in this one, and then in a blink of an eye, it was 3-2 in favor of the Galaxy, as Tyler Boyd would score his second goal in his career in MLS from Caligari and Joveljic to make it 3-2 in favor of the Galaxy. And the Riot, which was definitely bouncing after they saw their team lead 2-1, it was stunned silence. I mean, they you can hear a pin drop at the Riot with the way that the Galaxy got that third goal. And also hear some of the celebration for the Galaxy fans. There was actually quite a fair amount of Galaxy fans that make the trip up to Salt Lake to watch this. I mean, it's always tough for away supporter to attend these games in the middle of the week, but there was a good sizable crowd in this one. But as the time winds down, there was no doubt RSL was pushing back to try to get the equalizer, and the Galaxy was looking to hang on. Brody would hit one straight to Bond before Ojeda would head it wide from the corner. But yeah, in the end, the Galaxy, they hold on to win 3-2 in this one. Shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 10 that the Galaxy had. 8 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Galaxy had. 3 shots off target compared to 9 that RSL had. Both teams had 3 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that RSL has in this game. And again, for RSL, this has got to be very infuriating. They feel like they let this one slip, but for the Galaxy, a much needed win. And I mean, I know I said before how when you have someone from the high rank, from what we saw with Chris Klein being let go of his role for the Galaxy, that you usually don't get like a boost like you usually see with teams letting go of their head coach. But I feel like that maybe could be different because the Galaxy definitely play with more swagger, and that they also show some resilience, which is something you don't usually see this Galaxy team are able to do throughout the entire part of the season. And also, I think what's also impressed about this Galaxy win, they did it without Chicharito. And I know Chicharito hasn't had a great season, but yeah, it's still impressed. So consider, they're playing against an RSL team that have been red hot lately, and they basically silenced them in this game and got a big road win. But that being said, moving on in the next match. It is Sporting KC versus FC Dallas. Speaking of a team that is red hot, Sporting KC is now just 2 points back off the playoff standings. And this just shows you how things can change in a flash in MLS. Where remember when Sporting KC was just a gong show and basically a lot of people were questioning Peter Vermeer's job. I have a feeling there's not a lot of Sporting KC fans are questioning Peter Vermeer's job after the run that Sporting KC has run. In fact, after this win, they've now got the most point out of any Western Conference team in the month of May, and that includes them getting a 2-1 win against Dallas. Now, early on, this game actually was pushed back an hour, so this game actually kicked off right around this one was happening. But in the ninth minute, Maurer would deny Polito from close range, as I thought Sporting was on the front foot and was looking for the opener. But then McIntosh has to deny Jimenez from close range. Kent McIntosh has done well for Sporting KC. And now I think if you're Peter Ramirez, now you got an interesting decision to make that once if Tim Melia does get back. And I feel like right now from what I heard, it seems like John Postcamp is back healthy, but since McIntosh has been so good that it seems like he is basically winning the job over Postcam. But again, it does create a very interesting situation where if once Tim Melia does get back, do you stick with McIntosh because of the way that he's been playing very well lately? Velasco would then puts it wide from long range before McIntosh would deny Velasco, but he did give up a rebound right to Ferreira, who puts it into the back of net, but the flag went up there for offside. So yeah, McIntosh kind of got away with it there, but he was saved by the flag in that moment. And he was also saved by the post in the 23rd minute as it denied Jimenez and Dallas the lead. And there was no doubt Dallas were pressing to try and to get the opener. They really got into this game after a bit of a slow start. But in the 28th minute, Showery would pulls it wide from close before Rosario would heads it wide from the cross. But Sporting KCFO was pressing back to get the lead, and they do get the lead in the 40th minute. It's Gadi Kinda that gets the lead for Sporting KC to make it 1-0. Fiera trying to answer. In fact, he was in on goal there, but he was robbed by McIntosh in the near post. And then speaking of post, Fontes would struck the post here from close range. So up to that point, both teams had been victimized by the post, and I thought that was some MLS after dark kind of moment because both of these teams was going at each other trying to get that next goal. But we do head to halftime with Sporting KC leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Maurer would deny Tommy on the free kick. By the way, Jimmy Maurer, of course, getting the star in this game, as I think Dallas decided to rest Martin Paz after he's been starting pretty much every single game this season. But in the 60th minute, Sporting KC doubled their lead. It's Daniel Showery. He scored here from Kinda to make it 2-0 in favor of Sporting KC. And I really think the reason why Sporting KC has been on this run in May is because all their big hitters on the attacking end is scoring again. I mean, guys like Daniel Showery, Alan Polito, even Gadi Kinda is contributing to, and once Johnny Russell does come back, who knows? Maybe the Sporting KC team has started to be back what I thought, and I knew this was going to be the case, and that I've said it also before. When they finally end that miserable run, you just kind of had a sense that not only is a sigh of relief, but that's a turning point of the moment where this team can get back to the potential because the talent is definitely there, especially on the attacking end. Johnny's then trying to make it 3-0, but he missed wide there in the 67th minute, and then McIntosh did deny Molito from close. But then in the first minute of stoppage time, Dallas does make it interesting as Jesus Ferreira would score from Quignon to make it 2-1 in favor of Sporting KC, but that's as close as Dallas would get into it as Sporting KC was able to close this game out relatively comfortable, and they win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 15 shots with 11 that Dallas had, 4 shots on goal with the 5 that Sporting KC had, 7 shots off target with the 5 that Dallas had, 2 shots that was blocked with the 3 that Sporting KC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Dallas has in this game. And like I said, for Sporting KC, they started to play much better, and again, a lot of that has to do with the attacks started to finally hum, and also on the defensive front, they've definitely been but much better on the defensive front, and then I go back to what I said about Kendall McIntosh, where who knew that he is a guy that hasn't really gotten a lot of chance, but now he's been giving a chance after Tim Melia got injured, and it seems like like John Postgame kind of fell out of the favor. Seems like Ken McIntosh is definitely taking advantage of it, and he's definitely taking every advantage of it with the way that maybe he could be the guy that could be the heir of Tim Melia if, when eventually Tim Melia does think about hanging up his boots. But that being said, moving on into the next game is Seattle and the San Jose Earthquakes, and I have no clue how the Quakes pull this one off. Like honestly, this was a game that kind of make me frustrated about the Quakes every time when they're on the road. Where when they were able to take a 1-0 lead in this one, I mean, I was almost just waiting for the moment when Seattle finally got the equalizer, and they just never did. And now if you're Seattle, this has to be really concerning. Even if I thought this was probably their best attacking performance that they have had for a while now. But early on, Espinoza did hit one right to Fry before Fry did deny Murray from close range. I thought it was actually a promising start for the Crates, creating some good opportunity. That wouldn't last because Chu would then had the Sounders' first opportunity, but he missed wide from long range, and then he puts it high from close in the 21st minute. Bear then hits it right to Danielle, and the Sounders were gaining it in some steam. I mean, after a bit of a slow start to this game, they were definitely pushing to trying to get the opening goal. Danielle would rob Bear from point blank. This was by far the best game that Danielle has had, and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to win his spot back because he kind of lost his spot to JT Marcinkowski. Probably not after this incredible game, and I would say he's probably one of the reasons why the Quakes were able to get the win in this one. Abovasi then puts it high on the free kick, but we head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. It wouldn't stay scoreless for long because in the 48th minute, Jeremy Abovasi, he would score here from Rodriguez and Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. So here we go again. The Quakes have a 1-0 lead on the road, and I just think, well, that's great to see. But I feel like I've seen this script too many times where that 1-0 lead is not going to hold up. But in the 56th minute, Danielle would deny Chu from long range before Rusnak would puts it wide from long range, and then or actually Danielle would deny Rui Diaz from close range. Rui Diaz, of course, making his return in this one. And I also wrote Danielle might have just won his starting job back because he was really the only reason why he's keeping this Quakes team with some incredible save in this one. But I also thought that the Quakes are clearly going with their usual hang on to dear life tactics that they turns to do every time when they're on the road. And I've said that usually doesn't work, and it hasn't worked this season. There's just been so many games where Luchi Gonzalez tried that tactics and it just blow up in his face multiple times. Rui Diaz would then hits one right to Danielle before Rowe would also hits one right to Danielle. Rui Diaz then flip his lines from point blank. I mean, I can understand why Rui Diaz didn't really have his shooting boots considered. This is his first game, and it feels like he's still a little bit rusty. But yeah, that's one that he would like to half back. But in the 80th minute, Danielle would deny Montero from long range, and I just feel like it was a matter of time because the Quakes were just clearly hanging on. The Sounders were putting wave after wave of pressure, and I just think, well, how is the Quakes gonna blow, and which minute the Quakes are gonna blow this game? Montero then missed high on the header from the corner, and then in the second minute of stoppage time, again, Rui Diaz, once again, he had a chance from point blank range, but because of the fact that this is a Rui Diaz that's still trying to get back to full match fitness, he fell off his lines there. And honestly, I really think that if this was a Rui Diaz that have regularly start game in and game out, Quakes probably would have lost 2-1 in this one. But in the end, magically, the Quakes were able to pull off a 1-0 victory. Shots in this one, 23 shots for the 9 that the Quakes had, 3 shots on goal for the 8 that the Sounders had, 10 shots off target for the 5 that the Quakes had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 5 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Quakes has in this game. I like how the co-commentator basically said that this is not going to be sustainable right as the full-time whistle is blown. I mean, I couldn't agree with him more. I mean, this is definitely something that, again, I will say that with just so many times that they have tried this and so many times it blow up in their faces that, eventually one is going to fall in their favor, and it feels like this is kind of that moment. But again, I still don't have any confidence with this team in terms of trying to close out games, and that they cannot do this again in the next game and expect the same kind of outcome. But at least for this one, they're kind of very fortunate that they were able to walk away with the win. But on the other end, for the Sounders, again, I know they have looked much better on the attacking and in this one compared to past weeks, but this is now what the third or fourth home loss that the Sounders has had, and remember how Lumen's Field used to be just a fortress? This season it has not been that, and this has got to be concerning if you're the Sounders with the way that, yes, I know they're still in first place right now in the West, but obviously they probably won't be first place for long with the way that LAFC have so many game in hand over them. But just the performance wise that they have been, it's just have not been good enough in the past couple of games. Now, the good news is that they are going to get some of their guys healthy, and again, Rui Diaz is one of those players that's going to be back healthy, and I have no doubt that if Seattle does start to get healthy on the attack, they're going to be back to where they were in the beginning of the season. But the lack of depth is definitely concerning for the Sounders, and the fact that they don't have a lot of depth in this team, I don't know if they can really go too deep this season, which it sucks because this could be the last hurrah for this main core before they might have to retool heading into this next off season. But that being said, moving on into the last game on this board is whatever the heck happened in this one. So apparently this was a game where defense was not a thing in the first 30 minutes. Like there was no defense that was played in the first 30 minutes of this game. And then the second half happened, and then the Dynamo decided to not only, well, I mean the Dynamo wasn't really playing defense, but it seems like at least Vancouver kind of showed some sort of defense, and the Dynamo didn't, and Vancouver basically just ran riot in the second half in this one. And in the first half, the goal scoring barrage started early, as just 17 seconds into this game. Told you I'd talk about how earlier in my review where the goal scored by Heel wasn't the fastest goal, because this actually turns out to be the fastest goal scored this week. Just 17 seconds in, Vite would score from White to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps, and that would definitely be a foreshadow of what we're gonna see in this one, because just a couple of minutes later, Ibrahim would look for an instant response, but he was denied by Takaoka. But Franco did get the rebound there, but he puts it into the side netting. And then a couple of minutes later, Corey Bear would score. He scored here from Karasnia and Bossy to tie the game up at one apiece. It was not a great moment for Javane Brown. I mean, he misheaded that clearance right into the path of Corey Bear, and Bear basically made no mistake to make it 1-1 in this one. And then a couple of minutes later, it would be 2-1 in favor of the Dynamo, as Bossy would score from Steres to make it 2-1 in favor of the Dynamo. And before we even applaud the amazing ability of Bossy, able to take a great first touch, just slots it home, the Whitecaps got the equalizer. It's Julian Gresso scored from Gall and Martins to tie the game up at two apiece. And yeah, defense, it was non-existent in this game. I mean, it's not often after just 18 minutes of this game, the scoreline would be two apiece between both of these teams. And that would continue in terms of no defense being played, because in the 20th minute, Takioka would deny Ibrahim from close before the post, would deny Karaskia, and then it actually fall back to Ibrahim, who puts it wide there. Again, just because of the fact there was no defense that was being played, nobody was able to get to there first to clear the ball away, allowing opposition a second or third opportunity. And then in the 32nd minute, Takioka would rob Ibrahim from close range, but it fall kindly to Bear, who trying to shoot this one and probably should have scored if it wasn't for his own teammate getting in the way. And then on the same play, there was a shout for a penalty, as Karaskia thought that he was brought down in the box. I mean, you just simply cannot make this stuff up in terms of how crazy this game has, and that I even wrote this game has just turned into peak MLS After Dark. Like there was chaos from the get go, and that also kind of becoming a FIFA Ultimate Team match where defense just kind of is put in the back seat, and we'll see whether who is going to outscore each other the most. Now, I will say this: the defense did start to kind of picked up a little bit, and there was definitely more defensive reinforcement in the last 15 minutes. But as I mentioned, that wouldn't last long heading into the second half, or at least if you're in a Dynamo perspective, it wouldn't last for long, because just 10 seconds into the second half, and I think this is the first time in a long time I remember where both time when the whistle was blown coming out of both half, there would be a goal inside just 20 seconds in. And this time it's even quicker. Just 10 seconds into this one, Brian White would make it 3-2 in favor of the Whitecaps. And it could have been quicker if goal actually didn't struck the post. Like that would have been probably the quickest goal scorer in the coming out of the second half in league history if goal didn't struck the post there. But yeah, that made it 3-2, and then 13 minutes later it was 4-2 as Gresso would make it 4-2 in the 59th minute. Dynamo would went down to 10 men, and again I stopped taking notes up to this point because there's really no point taking notes when I know this game is just gone completely wackiness. But Quinones of course got a straight red in this one. I thought this was a very soft red card. I mean Labrota, he definitely uh he definitely got embellished that a little bit with the way that Quinones kind of barely touched his neck, and then Laporta basically does his best Suarez and Neymar impression. But that being said, if you're Nelson Quinones, you cannot react like that. I mean, you're basically asking for your opposition to try to bait you into a red card, and that's what happened in this one. But in the 88th minute, Sebastian Berhalter would score his first career MLS goal, and what a first career MLS goal it was. I mean, an absolute banger of a goal that Berhalter would score. And to just put the cherry on top, Vancouver will make it 6-2 in the 5th minute stoppage time as Ryan Gull would score from Berhalter and Caicedo. Cue the stop he's already dead meme that you see from Simpson, because yeah, it was 6-2 at that point. That also is the most goal that the Whitecaps have ever scored in an MLS game with 6 goals. As yeah, in the end, in this crazy affair between both of these teams, it was a 6-2 win for the Whitecaps. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 13 that the Dynamo has. Both teams had 7 shots on goal, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 4. Or actually no, 5 shots off target for the 4 that the Whitecaps had. 5 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Dynamo has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game. I mean, again, this was just absolutely nuts. And what's even more nuts is the fact that, as much as the Dynamo fans will be very frustrated with the way that they just got blown out in this one, they could have easily won this game, and they could have easily had a lead heading into the second half because they had a lot of chances. They could have easily made this 3-2 or even 4-2 heading into halftime. But I think in a game where both of these teams are just kind of trying to outscore each other because defense was pretty much non-existent in this one, you gotta bury those opportunities because they didn't. The Whitecaps were able to do so in the second half, and they got the deserved 6-2 win in this one over the Houston Dynamo. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at all of these games. And of course, if you made it to this far, thank you for your loyal support and hope you enjoy this long mega review that I've just done. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games and the other 8 games that I mentioned. Tomorrow, I of course will be doing the preview for the weekend's game because anytime when we have midweek games, it's a very quick turnaround where we get to do the review or the preview for the weekend games too. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.